recording will still work, and I will be sure to send out presentations and materials to everybody after. And David, I think I'll go ahead and hand it over to you, if that's all right.
Sure. Thank you, Jessica. This is David Mitchell. Welcome to our Iowa Community of Practice call. We're really excited to have our two speakers with us today. Deb Samson. Deb is a parent and coordinates our statewide parent education program and with the Department of Education. And with Deb is Kelly Von Lehmden. Kelly is also a parent and works as a liaison for the Center for Disabilities Development. She also serves on our Special Education Advisory Panel through the Department of Education. We've asked Deb and Kelly to come in today and share from multiple perspectives, both from their professional and their personal family hats, about what we as service providers need to know and where we need to improve and become more aware of. So we're very excited to have their expertise with us, and I think I'll turn it over to them, and I'm not sure who's going to go first, so we'll let them fight it out.
I think Deb's up first, if that's all right, Deb.
Can you still hear me?
I think we're okay, yeah, and just if you can get a little bit closer to the phone.
And it might be good for the speakers if you have it on speakerphone, but to get as close to the mic as possible. Thanks.
All right, can you hear me, guys? Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. That's
okay,
a lot
great.
better. That's a lot better. Thank you.
Well, I'm standing right under a microphone that's suspended from the ceiling, because let me tell you where we are. We're at Heartland AEA. The date of this webinar is the same as a PEC meeting date that had been scheduled for about a year. So you have many of the members of the PEC network here and are going to help participate in the call. As David so kindly introduced me, my name is Deb Samson. I'm from the Department of Education. I have now 47, and I just really kind of stutter over that, year-old son who is living independently and doing all sorts of things in his life that we never imagined possible when he was 1, 2, and 3 years old. It was a transition team from the Department of Education that from the AEA, who when they finally got me to respond to their question of what do you want Rick to do when he leaves school, and my typical response had been, I'm trying to get through this week. Don't ask me to talk about 6 years from now, 4 years from now, until finally I thought, she keeps asking me this because it must be an important conversation. So I finally said, okay. And she said, what are you thinking about? And I said, well, of course he's going to live at home with us because that's the only thing we've ever seen happen. And when we die, he's going to go someplace where they're going to dress him in striped pants and a plaid shirt. And that was really kind of my expectation at that time. But the team at the AEA said, the world's a different place now. Let us show you a few things. And leaving home and moving out on his own into his own apartment was the first developmental milestone Rick ever met in his whole life. Rick has cerebral palsy. He is a power chair user. He has a seizure disorder. He is considered medically a quadriplegic, and he lives at home in his own apartment with the community support such as attendant care and so forth. So anyway, he is the reason why I'm involved in this program and why it's been such a passion, and a piece of my heart is with it, because I know the guidance and the information and the support we got from people far more knowledgeable than we were at that point in Rick's life guide us along the way and help us make the decisions that has allowed him to have a much richer and fuller life, and at the same time has allowed us to have very different lives too, meaning Roger and I. So anyway, in front of the room, we've got representation from every AEA in the state, but AEA 10. The PEC is a program that's been in existence since 1984. As a group, they have 3 goals that they work on every year. One of them is the transition time from Part C, which is early childhood, to Part B. So if you look at it from the 0 to 3 program to a 3 to 5 program and a 5 introduction to the school age program, and then a transition to adult life, which is what we're talking about today, and also to help school districts understand parent involvement as being an important part of the process for successful school experiences and out-of-school experiences as far as setting the stage for that to happen. One of the things that the PEC has available to them, and in the PowerPoint will be a snapshot of the cover page of a set of modules that the PEC is able to deliver. In some districts by request and by design, it looks a little bit different in each AEA, but these modules were developed by PACER. Is it getting to be 4 years ago now? I really can't remember, but I think it's been about 4 years, and heads are nodding. PACER, which is the Minnesota State PTI, and they have quite a collection of people that help work on transition up at PACER. Anyway, they helped us develop and write different modules, one of them being high expectations, talking about the vital importance of parents having high expectations for their kids as far as the influence on their ability to have a good transition to adult life. Another one was post-secondary training, and another what needs to happen in post-secondary environments to help kids be successful. Another one on, it's called The Road to Discovery, what needs to happen and what are some of the laws that support kids. And then another one on just kind of the exploration of work and what it means, what kind of skills and behaviors do kids have to be able to be successful in the work environment. So those are available through all the PECs, and when you get the the PowerPoint, you will see that a snapshot of those different module titles. And I hope you can remember them from the PowerPoint then. But what I have done for the purposes of this presentation is to ask the group to think about what works with families and what works with students in their experience across the state. And then a second question, what do parents say they need or want as they start talking about transition? And what do students say that they need and want within the context of transition? So what I'd like to do for the next maybe 5 or 10 minutes is listen to the people here, and we'd hoped that people could talk from their tables, but I'm going to ask that you come and stand under the microphone too, so we can carry out to the people who are listening today. So whoever wants to be the brave volunteer to come up first. I see movement, but none towards the microphone. Here comes somebody. And why don't you introduce yourself and say where you're from as well?
My name is Amy Liddell, and I'm from Green Hills AEA, which is southwest Iowa. I would say something that would be really helpful and important is work experience in our rural communities is, let's just say, really there isn't much of it. Even if that work experience could be paid, that would even be better. But just having the opportunity for our kiddos to have that experience would just be very, very beneficial. And
including everybody in conversation. You know, these public dollars must be focused on those with really significant need. It really focuses itself on trauma in the world of employment in general.
You guys still there?
Yes, we are. Thanks, Amy.
I'm sorry about the interruption there. Yeah, thank you so much, Amy.
We didn't know if that was somebody interpreting for somebody or if we were just overhearing another conversation.
I apologize. You were overhearing another conversation, so if she's able to pick up right where she left off, that'd be great.
Well, she said she was actually done. So, next person. You can talk about what worked in your own life, too, with your own kids. I guess I'd have to agree with the work experience. I have a daughter that's considered severe and profound and pretty much nonverbal except for a few choice words. But everybody told us, that she probably would not work, would not do a lot of things like that. By our part as a family was that we really kept our ears open and our minds open to the possibilities. What we thought she could do was not what she wanted to do at all, but through job experiences in high school, in the community and at school, she kind of discovered her area of expertise. But still, to find the jobs in the community, she does have two part-time jobs, just a couple hours, 3 days a week, and those jobs came about by the parents, us, keeping our minds open and just listening. When you kind of heard somebody that needed some help doing something with a skill that Lindsay had, she has OCD and loves to bag things, so it worked well. We just kept our ears open and found some jobs for her. So why we'd like to think that those jobs will be offered through some of our community services and support. They're not always there for everybody. So keep your mind open, listen, and then see what the kids want to do. Thinking future all the time, I guess. I don't know. Thanks, Mary. Oh, I forgot to say. We've got another person approaching the microphone.
And I understand we have to use our outside voice. This feels kind of, David, like I'm looking at God. The microphone here. My name is Sandy Crashel, and I live in Clear Lake. I work for AEA 267. One of the things that I have heard on more than one occasion from parents of kids who are now adults is that they wish they had known about the adult services available and what that network was before their kids became adults. What I would say is we have a challenge in that. What I don't know about is the timing of it or a good way to get that information heard by the families of the kids who are still in high school. Because I know we've made a few attempts to make sure we provide that information, but I think until it becomes a reality, it's very difficult for them to even have an idea of what they're looking for or what they might need. And that good old Midwestern independence sometimes is hard to combat. But so awareness and a good knowledge of what their choices are for their kids once they become adults would be one of the things that I hear parents asking for.
Thanks, Sandy. Next.
Hi, my name is Rachel Terry. I'm from Mississippi Bend, AEA 9. To touch on what Sandy spoke to about preparing kids for adult services is to also make parents aware of what services would require a waiver. At this point in time, there's a 2-year waiting list to qualify for the ID waiver, and a lot of kids that might be at that 16 and 17-year-old age bracket that never were on a waiver but would need that or qualify for that for adult services are now kind of up in the air if they'll even be able to get that when they do turn 18. After 18, the waiting list is even longer, just making more awareness for that for our high school families.
A lot of times it takes a little longer when you're on the phone and you're not looking at people. But here comes another one.
Margie Schaefer, Heartland AEA, the Western area. One thing I find is that parents kind of feel that while the young person is in high school, there's a safety net there, and then there becomes a big reality when they start facing adult services and things like that. And even though I know all of us in our positions try to communicate how important transition planning is, you still have I don't know if it'd be a fourth or a third of the parents that, have that aha moment when, they've picked a graduation date and still don't know what to do, but yet we've worked with schools, we've worked with parents at every opportunity we can.
And then being in rural areas, having the service providers, job opportunities is lacking. Thanks, Margie. Now, we haven't heard a lot about students. What do we know works with students besides school and before they graduate employment? What else do we know? What conversations do you hear in the process about talking about students' interests, needs, and preferences?
This is Annette Clarahan. I'm from Great Prairie AEA, and I have to say that one of the things in some of the transition classes that we've done at Great Prairie is we're finding that parents, that we need to let kids who get, when they're in an area where there are a lot of different choices as far as work experience, not that there's a lot of them, but when there is choice, there are choices, it's good to let kids try many of those experiences, let them decide what they like and what they don't like, because if they buy into it, or if it's someone else's idea on what they're going to do, they're more apt to try. They might think they want to try something, but once they want to be something, then once they try it, they don't really like it. So it's just really important to kind of backing up what the others said, that they have those choices in all areas.
I'm Pam McGill from Sioux City. Mine's kind of a personal, just experiencing. I have a daughter that's a junior, and what I'm finding is that the adult services that she will qualify for don't match what she is getting in school. So she's getting a lot of support in school and is being successful. And what we're finding is that we're needing to back off some of that support to get a better feel for what she really needs going into as an adult. So, for example, she has had a para go with her from class to class, but the SAVE program, there's going to be no para. And so I feel grateful that we have another year to continue to work on that, but having that information is just so valuable to know what the recommendation or what the requirements for the next step are.
Thanks, Pam. I'm making eye contact with everybody, and here comes another one.
Hi, I'm Becca Bennell from Prairie Lakes, and I'm just remembering when I went to the Transitions Conference, and there was a young man speaking there, and he was talking about how learning to advocate for himself while he was in high school was a big key for him having success in college, because moms aren't going to be there to take them to the special ed office or the tutoring office or whichever, and he had to learn to do that. And he also had mentioned that he did that with his work as well, as much as he thought would help him in his experience with work. And I thought that was a key, even for younger students, younger than high school even, teaching them that self-advocacy seems to be a big part of successful adulthood.
Hi, this is Sandy Crashel again, and on a personal note, I would tell you that my daughter who received services in school is now 28, not as old as Deb's son, but boy is she getting old. And one of the things that she has shared with me in more recent years is how thankful she is that we kind of push the envelope to make her as independent as possible, to help her learn those skills and communication for, I guess, self-advocacy, just like Becca talked about, and how she is complimented and was in college as well as now that she is working, as far as how she deals with conflicts when they arise. Because it's not that it's smooth sailing, but it's the manner in which she addresses them when things are rocky. So I too would really chime in that anything we can do when the kids are younger to help them explore those options that they have and problem solve on their own as much as possible. Practice.
Practice. Is there a difference between what you hear parents and students saying when you ask them what they want?
Well, one of the experiences I've had, I think, routinely.
Identify yourself.
Oh, I'm Kari Paulson from Heartland AEA. Is that a lot of the parents, I find, still believe that their children will go on to post-secondary education. And many of those kids, if the conversations had been happening with some of the educators, they wouldn't be real successful if they'd had an IEP with modifications. And so those kinds of conversations, I think, are really uncomfortable for a lot of educators to have with parents. And when the reality hits, some of those parents become a little bit angry that maybe they haven't been prepared, and their child hasn't been prepared for that. And their whole world kind of changes then. So some of those conversations and how to have them, when to have them, I think would be really beneficial for families.
So I think what I hear you saying, Kari, is that transition starts much earlier than the 14, which Iowa is known for being really early and progressive in setting 14 as the date. I think a lot of us who have children realize that whether we're looking back or had the information early enough, that begins extremely early in any child's life, not just our kids who have disabilities. But thanks.
Yeah, sure.
Here comes someone else.
This is Amy Liddell again from Green Hills, and mine is a personal story. My kiddo is currently in a made-up 4+ program at a community college in Creston doing welding. But this was a kiddo from the time he was a freshman that I said that I wanted him to walk with his peers at graduation, but I also probably wanted him to be able to go on to a 4+ program or something. And as we give our kids choices, he also said, I'm not going to college. And he said that at every meeting, as I would say, he's going to go on, he would say, I'm not going to college. So we had this battle, but, you know, we just both kept talking about it. So his senior year comes, and I'm saying, I'd like Alec to walk the stage and go on. He said, I'm not going to college. And so what do you do? But I knew that he was not really ready to be done. And so he was doing a little work experience, not paid, at a little car dealership washing cars, not anywhere in his interest area. So he washing his cars, and he came home one day from his work experience and said, they're going to pay me after I get done with school. I'm not going to college. So we're at his IEP meeting, and he's so pumped about making $7.25 an hour washing cars from 7:30 to 5 every day. And I said to the team, he has no idea what that means. He doesn't know what that's going to be like. I really want him to go on next year into a program. And we've looked at some, and he really liked the welding program. He'd already had 12 credits of dual enrollment his senior year in welding and did very well. So they decided that we could go ahead and leave his IEP open and decide what we were going to do in the fall. And I think it was my persistence from his freshman year, you know, that I wanted him to go on. And he would say, I'm not going to college. But, you know, we talked through it. We left it open. And that little stinker didn't even work 2 weeks full time. And he came home and he said, when do I go to college? And I was like, I'm going to wring your neck, you know, because now we're into June, and what do? So we got a hold of Southwest Community College in Creston, and I got to tell you, if it wasn't for one young lady that works there, she's a liaison between the high school and college, really listened, took us under her wings, took Alec under her wings. And it just takes that one special person to really help. And Alec is going to graduate. He's done with school next week with a welding technology diploma. And he's been successful with all that little bit of extra support. And this is a kiddo with an ID diagnosis. So just listening as a team and thinking about it. I know if we gave Alec that choice, it just took him a little longer than we wanted, but, he's grown so much in this experience. So I'm just really happy that we had that opportunity.
Thanks, Amy. So how are we doing on time, Ms. Jess?
You're doing great. If you want to maybe wrap up in the next 3 to 4 minutes, that would be just fine.
All right. So I think for the purposes of this webinar, you've heard some real-life experiences, both families, the PEC people have worked with, and from the mothers of children with disabilities themselves. I think continually, because you've told somebody something once or informed them once doesn't mean that that's enough. I think you need to talk to people and mention them several times, starting as early as you possibly can, talking about independence and what kinds of things they like to do, being persistent, finding that magic person, whoever they are, in whatever system they're in, offering them job opportunities, and helping support them along the way to independence and the next environment is just a wonderful, it's a lot of work, and it comes with a huge degree of satisfaction, I think, and pride from all the mothers sitting in the room, and also from people who are working with systems, trying to help systems be responsive to that as well, to listen, to explore, continue to be persistent, and have those high expectations to expect a little bit more, I think would be our summary for today. In the PowerPoint that Jess will mail out to you, the last page is contact information. It's sometimes difficult to find the PEC person when you go to that you need in your area, because in 2 of the AEAs, it doesn't go by PEC. At the state, it's PEC. In Area 10, for your information, it's called Parent Educator Partnership, so PEP. And in Area 267, it's called the Family Educator Connection, so FEC. But we'll give you some options. Jess has a handout that she's going to send to you that is a list of everybody from this school year. The thing that's nice about this list is that every person is assigned specific districts in their AEA. So you'll be able to find, if you're working with somebody or have a child that's in a specific district in a specific AEA, you can get an actual number and a name of somebody to call. You'll get that. Then another way to connect with the people you need to is our contact information is on the back sheet. I have a partner in this endeavor of the PEC. Sharon Hawthorne is the educator coordinator, and we have our phone numbers and emails on the back of the contact sheet. You can call us, let us know where you are, and we'll connect you with the right people. So thank you for this opportunity today.
Deb, this is Dave. Thank you, and to the members of your PEC committee, much appreciation. Each of those messages were very powerful. Part of the webinars that we're doing here are brought to you by the work of the Employment First team in Iowa and the Iowa Coalition of Integrated Employment. And the team leaders are really representative of multiple state systems and some family members and private providers. But it really is, how do we work together to promote a better transition system and better employment outcomes? I just came back from Washington, D.C. last week and had a chance to visit with multiple people through a joint panel through the Department of Labor, Employment Training, ODEP, Education. And many of the muckety-mucks in Washington, D.C. echoed exactly what our parents are saying in terms of high expectations. We need to serve more youth. We need to get to them earlier. We need to make sure that we're engaging parents and families in a positive manner. We need to have state leadership that's focused on transition. We need to be able to improve collaboration between local and state stakeholders. We need to be able to create better career pathways and sectors to employment. We need to increase more opportunities for work experience. We need to provide better information to students and families earlier. The things you were echoing, or the things that were being stated, are really echoes of what's occurring, and I think is being integrated into the new federal legislation with WIOA. And I think, Deb, you kind of led off the conversation talking about imagining the possibilities. So as I was taking notes from what everybody was saying, we're doing a lot of things very well, but I think what we're being challenged with is that we need to do things a little differently, and that we all have a stake in employment outcomes, we all have a stake in our education outcomes, and we don't need to do it alone, but we need to partner a little differently, and certainly the PEC and the various factors of that are such a great resource to everybody. So from a service system standpoint, and for the service providers out there, we need to be making sure that we're engaged with your PECs and those resources. And again, thank you so much for everybody that took some time. It was very powerful. So with that, I'm glad I don't have to follow that up. So I'm going to turn it over to Kelly and be quiet here.
Thanks. This is Kelly Von Lehmden, and I work at the Center for Disabilities Development. And my role at the CDD is I bring the parent and family programs and also in some statewide committees. Today I'm going to talk a little bit about our journey as a parent, and also from what I hear from other parents and professionals that I've worked with, kind of where we're at today. I have a daughter who is 16, so definitely younger than Rick, and so we are on the very beginning of our journey in the whole transition to employment. Sydney is a freshman, and she has Down syndrome. A little bit about Sydney, just to give you kind of a better perspective of her skills and what we're doing, is she is very busy girl. She is involved in band and choir and loves sports, so she's been on the volleyball and basketball. But in that, Sydney is also very shy, and so we're working very hard on advocacy skills that I know were already mentioned. But because of my work at CDD and having the privilege of working with lots of people in this area, we probably have started earlier. Well, I know we've started earlier than what I hear a lot of families doing. And so where we're at today is we've already, as a freshman, had voc rehab at our IEP meeting. We also have already done the discovery process through Goodwill, where they've taken Sydney likes and things that she's good at, things that she doesn't like. And we have a meeting set up next week to meet with the employment specialist at Goodwill to really try to find employment already this summer to get her started in the process. So that's kind of where we're at, and I know based on other people that I talked to that we're farther ahead than some, but I just felt it was really important, and that I knew that it would take us a while to figure out what Sydney liked to do. Because she's so busy, she doesn't have a lot of time either, so we thought better. So that's kind of where we're at, and now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about, as a parent, kind of what this journey, what I have learned, and what I wish I would have known. But I probably wanted to start out by saying that we as parents don't know what we don't know. We put a lot of faith in the systems and the professionals that are working with our kids. And what I found over the years having Sydney is that asking the questions aren't really the hard thing. It's really knowing what questions to ask. So when you keep that in mind as you're trying to engage parents in this process, just remember that most parents, this is not their area of work. This is not their area of expertise. And they are so dependent on the information and the people around them to give them the information that will help. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our experience using the Department of Ed has 4 essential elements for employment. And basically, you'll get this in the PowerPoint when Jess can send it out. But we're going to talk about planning, collaboration, and then the paid work experience. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on the support and follow-up because we haven't gotten there yet. We're still in that very beginning process. So how to get parents engaged in the planning part of it. I think one of the most important things as a parent is for us to understand why planning is important and why our involvement is needed. It's important that parents know that what they bring to the table is very important in terms of they know their child best. They know what their child likes, what they don't like, maybe what they're scared about. And that is why it's important. We all have experience that we bring to the table, but their experience is key to making a complete team. And, you know, never starting too early. We've kind of already talked about that. But I remember when Sydney was in 7th grade, which is the year that she turned 14, we started that transition questionnaire and the transition IEP. And I remember being overwhelmed as a parent because I couldn't imagine what Sydney would do for a job. And I remember when I got the questionnaire for transition, and I don't know if that's something that every IEP team hands out or not, but for me it was very, very helpful. It began like a structured process of thinking about maybe Sydney's future, but it also took some of the concerns about, I couldn't articulate what Sydney might do, but what I could articulate is what she liked or what she didn't like, things that she enjoys, things that scares her. And so in filling that out and having those discussions in a more structured way, now what I find myself doing is anytime I see Sydney doing something that I see that she really enjoys or that she's good at or that she wants to do again, I try to think about, well, what kind of job would she maybe do with that? So it really has helped me, and it took a little bit of that overwhelming responsibility of trying to find a job for Sydney that she could succeed at. The other thing, too, is just discussing the expectations of employment for your son or daughter. I know as a parent and talking to other parents, not all parents believe that their son or daughter will work or that there will be opportunities or jobs out there for them. And so I am thrilled to know that we are working on that people understand that those should be the expectations. So encouraging parents to believe in that. And so if they don't know that that's an expectation, then I think it's much more difficult for them to be engaged in the process. And then encouraging parents to start thinking and talking about likes or dislikes, which we kind of already talked about. Also, working with parents to identify skills needed for employment. You know, what I don't like to see is when parents, we depend on everyone else around the table to find a plan and come up with a plan for our kids on their future. And it's not just the school's responsibility or agency's responsibility to help with the skills that Sydney would need. But I, as a parent, might not know what all those skills are. And so I think making sure that parents understand the types of skills, the advocacy skills, or all those soft skills that we've kind of talked about, just making sure that we understand those too. And I think the more information that parents have about that, the more that they can be helpful. Also, encouraging parents to reach out to other parents, I have found extremely helpful along the way. I ran across a quote a while ago, and it says, the best gift you can give a parent is another parent. And I found that so true in our journey in this process, too, is parents who've kind of gone for us and maybe have learned some things that worked and didn't work. So when you have the ability in your profession to give parents other names, people that they can talk to or encourage them to reach out, I think that's next one is about training. And I think that I just can't even tell you the number of trainings that I've been informed about over the years. And quite honestly, when I didn't understand how they were relevant to me, which was very, very few times did I understand directly what I might gain from that or how I could help Sydney in a certain way. And so a lot of times I didn't attend those. But when I'm personally invited to a training or someone can tell me how this specifically might help us or what kind of information we can gain and why that's helpful, I'm much more likely to attend or actually do something online. So anytime you have training that comes up, I do think training is extremely helpful, but it's just giving those parents the information and maybe that personal invitation to get them there. And then also the last thing about planning is just making sure that parents engage their son or daughter in the process. What can those kids be doing outside of school to start working on their skills? And I know that about a year ago I had a parent, I called on the phone because I heard that she was just very good at getting engaged in the community and things like that. And one of the things that I learned from her is that volunteering can be a huge way to place employment, but certainly for Sydney, someone who's younger, it has been, it could be a good way to acquire some skills that will help her in employment. And so we actually contacted, or I contacted the YMCA because I knew Sydney enjoyed sports. And I was so nervous about making that phone call, and but certainly had a warm welcome and very excited to have Sydney come in. And so she volunteered over the summer and through most of the fall, scanning their membership cards, giving towels or keys for lockers and those sorts of things. We learned a lot in that process. Sydney really liked parts of it, but at the end she not to be as excited about going. And Sydney is very much a pleaser, and so she loves everything is what she'll tell you, but I knew there was a reason why she didn't like it. Well, we discovered that she doesn't like to be bored. She doesn't like it and not have things to do. And because she worked on when it was slow times, there was lots of times waiting in between a member coming in. Her, but we also learned the things that she did like. She liked scanning the cards. She liked interacting with the people. So volunteering can be a huge way to get your son and daughter involved in the process, but it's encouraging those parents to make that happen as well. And then also using, if we talked about the waiver earlier, for those that are on the waiver, there are resources out there to work on different skills that might be needed in employment, health advocacy, and just being in the community. So encouraging parents maybe using their waiver dollars to acquire some of those skills.